For the second day in a row, I would like to offer a pre-music disclaimer that says that we're going to get into some issues of human intimacy in some rather odd expressions. And since I know that many of you listen with your kids, I always think it's cool to give you a heads up when we're headed in that direction. You have been advised. Thank you for heeding my disclaimer. All right, let's get after it. Yesterday, I took probably way too much time on the front end talking about the invisible, visceral reactions that happen deep within me, deep within other people, I think, when we get called out on something that we rightly need to be called out on. It is an awful feeling. It's gross. It's this moment of feeling like the gig is up. We feel this weird cocktail of regret and resentment of the person who said it, and also embarrassment. And how many other people see this going on too? Oh, my life is a wreck. What the heck am I doing? You swirl all of that together in the drink and it doesn't taste particularly good going down. But when it's all said and done, we're going to handle that pushback one of two ways. We're going to begrudgingly lean into it, acknowledging that, yeah, you have a point. I was being kind of dumb. My bad, I need to change some stuff. Or we are going to double down on destroying the person who called it out. And in Matthew 14, we are running into a scenario where somebody is rightly called out, not even based on my own personal preferences or standards or modern mores that I approve of, but based on the agreed upon societal standards, religious standards, even legal standards of the day. What we're talking about here is a scenario where somebody got rightly called out, and rather than responding with humility, they melted down and tried to destroy the person who rightly called them out and send a message to any other possible whistleblowers that should they call out this behavior, they will get burned down as well. Once again, here's the passage, Matthew chapter 14. At that time being right after Jesus got run out of Nazareth because nobody really liked his teaching and he didn't do many miracles there, it says, at that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard the reports about Jesus, and he said to his attendants, "This is John the Baptist. He's risen from the dead. That's why miraculous powers are at work in him." Now Herod had arrested John and bound him and put him in prison because of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife. For John had been saying to him, "It's not lawful for you to have her." Herod wanted to kill John, but he was afraid of the people because they considered him a prophet. So Herod's over a barrel. He did a thing that he's not supposed to do. We looked at Leviticus, whatever it was, 18, I think, 16 yesterday. It's a super obvious verse about like, hey, you're not supposed to have sex with your brother's wife. That would dishonor your brother, obviously. And so that rule is in place. Herod knew dang well what he was doing when he disregarded that rule. It's not like he's offending some overly offendable religious conservatives or fundamentalists, people who were, being actively demonized by the majority of society at that time. No. Like, everybody was down with this ground rule that it's not cool to have sex with your brother's wife, let alone steal your brother's wife and then just have sex with her like all the time. And now as we're into day 2 of looking at this confrontation, it's impossible not to notice all of the additional human, psychological, soul level layers of what's going on here. So nobody else is saying this to him. I mean, if so, we'd probably hear about all the other people who ended up getting arrested for calling out Herod Antipas. But no, it's just John. And this is where you've got a guy who has nothing to lose and therefore is not afraid to say things that are incredibly true right in the face of power, right in the face of the person who has all the authority in the world to damage this person's body, this person's life, to deprive them of freedom, to deprive them of food, to spread rumors about them. All the power in this scenario, in a world kingdom sense, is in the court of Herod the Tetrarch. None of the power is with the homeless weirdo that eats bugs for a living out in the desert. And so in this case, John is actually really well positioned to say things. Now, why didn't other people say things? Well, one reason that other people might not have said anything is because they had something going on the side with their brother's wife. People who are getting something wrong that they see other people getting wrong as well tend to not want to bring that up because intuitively, I think we all know that whatever measure we use is going to get used on us. It It certainly gives me pause about going around and hassling other people about their problems, because I've had problems. I still have problems. If I do bring any of those things up, my goodness, I want to fall all over myself to be gracious and patient and acknowledge that we're all flawed. So maybe some people have stayed quiet because they got their own problems. But beyond that, I think other people have stayed quiet because they are vested. They have things that could go away. They'd achieved a certain level of comfort or functionality. They had obligations, a family, whatever. Look, you cross Herod, you're crossing somebody who can destroy you, who can make it so that you'll never work in this town again or anywhere again. Maybe take your hands, maybe take your head, maybe just lock you up in a gulag somewhere forever. This is not America pre-2018, when you could say pretty much whatever you wanted and people might be really offended and irritated with you, but nobody was going to do anything about it because it's just words. Now, admittedly, since then, it's a little different, isn't it? Since then, maybe we find the situation that we're in now to be a bit more relatable to the situation that all the other critics or would-be critics of Herod Antipas's behavior were in back then. I'm guessing a ton of people ran the same math problem that people like me, who do what I do for a living, have to run every time we turn on a microphone. Look, you and I both know that there are multiple combinations of words that I could throw out over the next 10 seconds right now. 10 seconds! That would absolutely obliterate my ability to work or live on the internet, that would result in a firestorm of chaos. And maybe it would be deserved, because there are some really offensive things that you can say in 10 seconds. But we both know that we live in a hyper word judgy moment in history where we have equated words to violence, and we've got this whole new formula worked out for justifying making it so other people don't say words we don't like anymore. And look, there's no point in trying to hide it. I am not down with that. Freedom of speech is super dangerous, and the only more dangerous system is enforcing some sort of combination of societal, corporate, and governmental controlling of speech. That's the only thing that's more dangerous than freedom of speech. So given those two, I'm just going to take my chances with people saying things that I don't like, that I think might even be dangerous or problematic, and just living with it and working with it. That's where I come down. Maybe you come down somewhere differently. I can tell you where Herod came down. Freedom of speech was not exactly at the top of his social contract to-do list with the people that he governed. Freedom of what? Pardon? I am the law. And if you say things I don't like, you're going to feel it. So think carefully about what you utter in your households, in the synagogue, on street corners, because I am listening and people loyal to me are listening. Do not cross me with your words. And Herod could surely go on to boast. And if you don't think I'm serious about this, remember the severed head of John the Baptist? Well, that's what happens to people who speak seditious words. We see some parallels to what we understand and what we live with today. There are some edgy words that you can say that will cost you nothing. Those words that might seem brave are actually really not that brave at all, because there's very little risk. Or you can just target your very edgy words at somebody who can't do anything to you, and it works out. But you and I also know that there are all kinds of other combinations of words where we run the equation and we go, ooh, even if I did think that, and I don't, I better dang well not say that, because that would irritate people who are powerful enough to actually do something about it. Or maybe there's some stuff that is true that just needs to be said, and nobody wants to say those things anymore because the powers that be simply won't have it. And eventually in society, people get cowed and they don't say things. Not because they don't believe things, and not because those things they believe aren't true, but because they're running a math equation where self-preservation ends up being the biggest factor. So what we've got here is a speech-controlling despot who is using his power to make sure that he is for all time above any kind of meaningful criticism, and he's making an example of John the Baptist. Herod wanted to kill John, but he was afraid of the people because they considered him a prophet. So Herod's so mad about getting called out and how right John actually is that he wants to out and out kill him. Somebody sees the gig is up. The manipulator, the controlling type, if you want to take them down, just stand up and loud and clear, look them in the eye, maybe even in front of other people, and be like, here's exactly what you're doing. And that manipulator will melt down because all they have is the manipulation. John does that. Herod goes into full rage mode. I want you dead, because John's words are a threat to Herod's life, his credibility, his power, Herod's entire narrative that he has in his head about him being a decent guy, all of his justifications, his whole story that he's crafted for himself that makes him able to live with himself comes undone if what John is saying is true. John's gotta go. So why doesn't he go? Well, again, verse 5, because people liked John. We're reminded that ultimately power does lie with the masses. The Bible does a great job of taking that point even one step further beyond the socio-political reality that I just stated, and demonstrating with all the stories that involve kings who are unrighteous and problematic throughout the Bible that their authority is actually a joke, it's a farce, and the true authority is actually God's. So here again we get this motif of the clown king who's like, how dare you say that to me? I will take your life if it weren't for all those people out there who might storm my palace or hurt me if I do it. So it turns out he doesn't have as much power as his blustering would indicate. Nothing to lose John saying the truth and calling out the fact that the emperor has no clothes actually has tremendous currency with your common man and your common woman, and Herod is at least in touch with reality enough to get that. Hey, just like yesterday, I want to end on this same note. If you are here and you are listening to these things, congratulations, because you're accomplishing something. You are throwing time and energy at developing a skill set, understanding not just a cultural text, but kind of the cultural text, not just a historical figure, but kind of the historical figure. And you're doing it on your own terms, and you're doing it in a way that equips you to understand it for yourself and disagree with me in the places where I'm being an idiot and haven't done my homework right and I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not threatened by that at all. I'm just so excited that you are putting in the work on this and that this is something that we're both growing in together. That really is an accomplishment. Congratulations on transforming 12 or 13 minutes a day into something that is useful and moves the ball forward in ways that really matter for hopefully both of us. So here's your well-earned internet high five. And with that said, I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon, my friends.